Not looking at the script. Good morning, friends. I am going to do something that we've done a little bit in the past. Once in a while in the past, we've done a group story, and I'm going to weave a few of our stories together into a bigger theme. All of us are constantly living the story of our lives, and sometimes we do that more consciously than other times. One story that I've shared with this group in the past is that of my kidney donation, which turned out to be a very joyful story. Um, Climate justice, which we're here to work on together, it gets played out by those of us with different stories that sometimes weave together and braid together very powerfully. And I'm going to take us into the present, but for a minute, I'm going to go into a little bit of our past. I've observed Peter and Michael to live out multiple stories of working on climate justice, including with MACG and with Earth Faith. I've seen Robin uh, live out this beautiful story that includes coming out earlier in her life and doing that at the Lutheran Synod in a very brave way that had no assured outcome. And look at her vibrant ministry today. It is so full of life giving juice and activism and organizing. Scott has shared the story, and I love it, of having lived a corporate life back east that was not fulfilling to his soul, moving out west here. And he is now one of the most fiery and consistent activists that I know working for climate justice. Quinn, I see that you are working on organizing, you're living a leadership story out there in Minnesota, and you're living a great story. And Lee, I have seen you when I first met you being slightly tentative, full of vision. And over the 1 or 2 years that I've known you, folks, I've just got to let you know that yesterday Lee attended a presentation that I did for Hawaiian Electric on electric school buses. And her presence in the room was luminous and confident. And she's living into the story of becoming an activist who can do that for a living. And I see her living that story, pushing into it. And we're living our stories with each other. The PSEF story of 2018, lots of us worked on that. And Scott and I did co leadership on EcoFaith's behalf. That was something neither of us had done before. The day before yesterday, I attended a PSEF training for people who are going after the PSEF grants that are for climate justice. And the story that has happened there was that originally we thought it was $70 million a year that was going to be generated by taxing the ultra rich corporations. It is now $200 million a year that the PSEF fund is, I'm going to say, harvesting from big box retail that are obviously extracting enormously from the Earth's resources. And now that's being, in part, put over into uh, communities of color, climate justice. So we can live good stories. I'm going to bring us into the now. We're facing an election in half a year that will have enormous impacts on climate justice. And we all know what I'm talking about. And I don't even like politics. Politics are usually the last thing that I ever want to talk about. Here's the story that I'm starting to live into, and I want to invite you to live into with me. I'm having my third meeting tomorrow with Tracy Smiles, who's in Arizona, and she's a Democratic activist in Arizona. And we're putting together, and I've gathered the verbal commitments of a number of friends here in Oregon to work on supporting the Arizonans in the next half a year, especially the last 3 months of the year, on getting out the vote that can support, let's say, a climate justice outcome. And I would love for us to work on this together as EcoFaith. It can look a number of different ways. I mean, a lot of us have done these kinds of activities before with text banking and phone banking. I'm going to physically go there to Arizona, but not everybody has to do that. The point being that we act together. In EcoFaith, we do practice five and we act together. And we do that by building relationships and discovering our stories. And that's the way that I'm going to be doing this alliance with Tracy Smiles, even though it might not be an eco-faith activity per se. It's very eco-faith grounded and eco-faith inspired. To sum up, my friends, I have for years, watched all of you living good stories, a lot of our stories interwoven. And I'm inviting us to move forward into these next 6 months, weaving our stories together, acting together like eco faith people working for climate justice. That's what I've got.